Welcome, welcome. I got a special message today. Stephen, find your seat. I got a special message today, and here's the thing. Noah, why don't you hit me here? Actually, go back. Noah's my clicker today, so he's doing. So I'm going to talk about the life formula. Here's what I'm going to talk about. There's habits and rituals that you're sitting here that you must put into play. But I'm going to talk about the deeper thing that goes way deeper than just some habits and rituals. Why is it that you're not doing a habit or ritual? Or why is it those of you who are doing a habit and ritual? So we'll get to that. But the key, what I really want to talk about, and what I'm really going to really start off with, is what I call the science of success. There's a difference of those that actually accomplish things and who don't. Would you agree? Yeah. So let's explore those. For me, I really look at the neurology, the psychology, and the biology of success. And so, first off, when I think about it, Noah now hit me. When I think about it, here's the first thing, right? If you read any book on success, and I've read a lot of them, I know you have. If you read any book on success, you will see that the first law of success for a human is that they understand success is an internal game. That if you don't have an inside locus of control, as the psychologists say, locus of control means where do you feel like the control is? If you don't have an internal locus of control, you've already lost. But the good news is, I know everybody in this room has an internal locus of control, or you wouldn't be here. So, 1 John 4:4. Where's the greatness at? Greater is he that is inside than on the outside. And I can tell you this has been my entire career. And I love my posse up here. Ebo, about time you got back here. Is my entire career was the foundation, the catalyst, the entire thing was built around this idea that greater is he on the inside than is on the outside. And I know I'm not the only one, especially in this room. But I want to go deeper today. I want to go a layer, and maybe 2, 3, 4 layers deeper. Things that are blowing my mind right now that I'm looking up, that I'm researching, and that I'm finding to be true in my own life. And I want to impart that on you guys. And what is the science of success? When you study human biology, you study human psychology, you study human neurology, you start to see there's a difference. There's a difference. And I'm going to teach you how to tap into it. So you can't see this. This is such a great slide, particularly because of what happened earlier with Paige in the room. But what you see there on the left is both of these are breast milk. Pictures of breast milk. What you see there on the left is just white, pumped breast milk. What you see there on the right, the same mother, the same milk that came from the mother on the left is the same milk that came from the mother on the left. It's the same breast, same mom, same baby. The difference was that mom nursed the baby through the night, and the baby was getting symptoms, or what we would call sick, right? They started to get symptoms. The mom got up the next morning and pumped breast milk, just like she did with the white milk. What's the difference? This one's full of what? My non-Kairos in the room. Which this one's full of? Let's just say, I could ask the choir here. No, it's actually full of immune-fighting chemistry. Right? Those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with this, like a colostrum, right? That first milk, there's so much immune-fighting chemistry in there. And I'm going to tell you, you moms are brilliant. You're amazing. You make the world go round. But I got to tell you, your conscious intelligence can't do that. It can't change the breast milk on demand of your baby. That's the innate intelligence. That's the power of the inside. That's the greatest doctor that exists known to man. And so that's been my entire world. Like, that's what I've known. When I found out this idea, this big idea, everything changed for me. I can't say that I definitely did not come from a family where success was like the thing to do. Like it was very, survival, take what you can get, money doesn't grow on trees, work hard but don't expect a lot. And I love my parents, they did a great job. But I didn't come from that. But then when I learned this and I realized the world needs to know this, it all changed for me. So this is why now I study, because now there are people that do kind of get this, I would argue. They get maybe this big thing, but they also don't go out and have the success that others do. So it forces me to go even deeper. And I don't know if any of you else grew up playing baseball, but I grew up playing baseball, and I did get a catch a little bit. So I played some baseball in college, but I was more of an infielder. But have anybody played catcher growing up? Yeah. So okay, we got some catchers. Let's roll. So when you play catcher, right? When a fly ball is it's the toughest fly ball to catch, right? What do you do immediately when a fly ball is, when you're trying to, what do you immediately do? Two things. You do what? You toss the mask. So some of you, we were at a men's group on Monday, and Cole, who Josh was mentioning, Cole is, he played in the major leagues for like 10 years as a catcher. He's a big, tall, hits it about 300 yards off the tee for golf. Big dude. He played catcher, and I said, Cole, I looked at him, he's sitting right next to me on the couch on Monday. I said, Cole, what's the toughest fly ball to catch in baseball? He said, no question. It's a fly ball behind the plate. Why? Because it's got what? So there's two things you do. It's got spin on it. It's going up and back. So there's two things you do. The first thing you do is you flip your mask, you throw it as far as you can. Why do you want to throw it as far as you can? So you don't trip over it, because you're catching, fly ball goes straight up and everybody yells ball, right? And the first thing you do, flip off your mask, throw it as far as you can, because you're going to end up here and then you got to go back and find it because it's got spin on it. And then the second, first thing you flip the mask and then you turn around. So why am I telling this? It's because I was reading a book recently called Psycho-Cybernetics. And I've told a lot of you about this book by Maxwell Maltz. He was the godfather of self-help. And so he wrote this book back in the 50s, 60s. And he talked about the idea that we, in our culture, we understand how intelligent a missile is. Like it's got such intelligence and coordinates. You put the coordinates in, it can just boom, right? But he goes, we neglect to realize that the greatest mechanism is inside the human. Think about, he was just catching a fly ball in baseball. And I said, as a catcher, right, with spin on it, to be able to catch a ball, think about this, to be able to go under it, watch it, like you guys are sitting on the greatest success mechanism right in your chair right now today. Inside you is the greatest mechanism to reach a level of success. The question is, why have some of us got there, some of us maybe got to certain levels? I'm going to tell you, it's not because you're not wired. You are wired for it. It's how can we tap into it? And this is what I found in my own life. The things that I've been able to tap into, it's because I didn't realize it, but I was inadvertently, meaning not purposely, because I didn't know, tapping into this mechanism. And so this is a chiropractic quote, but I'm going to take it from a different angle. So D.D. Palmer, the founder of chiropractic, he said this: one question was always uppermost in my mind in the search for the cause of disease. I desired to know why one person was ailing, why his associate, eating at the same table, working in the same shop, at the same bench, maybe even the same family, was not. It perplexed him. Why is it? Why could two people essentially be from the same place? Why does one get sick and one not? I'm going to say the same thing. Why could two people from the same school of thought, maybe even from the same household, eat the same food, the same DNA, why would one get success and one not? That's what I'm asking. And I'm going deep down this rabbit hole, and I'm going to tell you, it all exists in this nervous system. And so, I took my girls to, this was about a month ago, we went to Washington, D.C. And it really was the first time. I know some of you, around the room, you've spoken in different seminars. I've spoken in seminars like all over the world, and the one thing you do is when you go to Rome, or you go to London, or you go to Paris, or you go to Istanbul, or you go to these places, you always visit the sites. You're like, hey, what's the sites? Okay, I'm going to go to the Red Square in Moscow and these places. But I've never been to, D.C. Scott, I had never been, like I'd never spent any time there. So I went there, and I mean, you know, like I'm a kid in a candy store. Like the first night we went out to eat with we're out to dinner, and the girls, I'm like, girls, they're like, Dad, okay, we saw enough of that, museum, let's go to the next one. I'm like, I could spend the entire time in the history museum. But I said, here's why. I said, I get so enamored by the idea that everything, I said, Hallie, she's my 12-year-old, what are some blessings you experience in life? And it was smoking hot. It was the middle of September, early September, so hot. And I'm like, let's think of the most relevant one. How about air conditioning? How about the plane that got here? How about electricity? How about light? I said, do you realize all of those came from this republic, this country, the freedom that we have here? And so I said that because, or I say that even to us, is this is the greatest business plan known to man. But that wasn't my big takeaway. The reason why I show you this and brought this up is because you look at Abraham Lincoln, we went to Jefferson Memorial, we went to all the places. We went in Baltimore, we went over to Fort McHenry, Washington Monument, all the things. And I sit there and I think, these men and women were no different than you and I. Like, until we really get that, right? And I'm saying I'm a work in progress. I'm saying I haven't yet. But when we start to understand the people that you aspire to be like, or the accomplishments you want, it's right there. Why not you? You've heard this with her. Like, why not me? See, I think this is a video now.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, you push in, something will pop out the other side. You could change it. You could mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
I think the question we all have to ask, right? We can see that, we relate with that, we can understand he's saying that in the moment, even in a room like this in the moment, we're like, yes, he's right. But really when it comes down to it, when you're sleeping tonight, when you're sleeping, on Saturday, when it's 2 months from now and you get hit in the face again, do you really believe that? And I'm asking myself, just like I'm asking you guys, do we really believe that? Because the more that we believe that, the more we are willing to take the actions to make it happen. But the question is, and I'm going to circle it back, where does it all start? Where does it start? It starts right here. And I know this, and I'm going to bang the drum, the nervous system, but I have had, nobody can prove anything other than it's in the nervous system. It's in the nervous system. And so my world has been focused on the nervous system. Evil texted me a thing last night. Go check out this paper. It's all about the nervous system. Look at the vagus nerve. And so when I studied the nervous system for so long, I gotta say, in the last 8 months, I've been radically enlightened. I don't love that word, but it's the first one that came to my mind, about those that get successful and those that don't, or different degrees of success. If we're not looking on the inside and we're not looking there, you're not gonna find it. And so that's been, now I'm going to tell you, this is my mission. So go to the next one. I created this poster years ago, and it was about a chiropractic adjustment. And it explained the neurology of a chiropractic adjustment. Here's the thing, here's what I know. When I adjust somebody, there's an afferent process that occurs into the brain. So right now he's got, but not only there's muscle spindles in the area, there's mechanoreceptors in the facet joint. You've got the disc that's loaded with neurology. And what happens is there's afferent firing up into the brain, goes to cerebellum, thalamus, cortex, then it goes to the hypothalamus. And the important part about the hypothalamus is that now we get into the stress hormones. Now we start to lower those stress hormones. That sympathetic dominant state starts to reduce. And when that reduces, then the entire body gets more functional, and all of the systemic hormones of the body start working for him, and he becomes healthier. Now, this is not a chiropractic lecture. My point, though, is I have been such a nerdy neuro guy because I've always had to figure out, why do things work? Why is it that somebody could get adjusted and they, couldn't get pregnant, they get pregnant. Another person gets adjusted, their back pain goes away, their headaches go away. A child was on the spectrum, they're not on the spectrum. They had attention deficit, like you name it. Heartburn, diabetes, allergies, all of it, right? There must be some neurological consequences, which there are. And I gotta tell you, here's the deal. The same flip that you can switch, the same switch that you can flip for health when it comes to the neurology of the body, you can flip when it comes to the success of your future. And I know it sounds a little bit extreme, but I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to spend the next minutes and prove it to you. There's 3 primary areas of the brain that are right now you're using to create your future. It's almost like this. Like if you think about the current life that you have right now, you think about your car, your house, you could go your bank account, your business, your employees, your staff, like all of it was, imagine a 3D printer printed it out. Well, what is the 3D printer? How does it know how to print that stuff? It's what's in the what? Not the hardware, but the software. So we're all running a software. We all are getting results based on our actions, but our actions were based on our belief, which were based on our emotion, which was based on our thoughts. Oh my goodness. If you would have told me this 2 years ago, I said, you are crazy. I don't do the thought stuff. That's foo-foo. That's for those unscientific quacks that just want to think about it and law of attraction, secret. Not for me. Until I started studying neurology. And until I started studying, wow, where does success come from? So why the prefrontal cortex? Because this is the executive function. This is what you are using to control your thoughts. Amygdala, that's the emotional center, and the hippocampus is your memory. Campus, it's a campus. Remember, like a campus, you remember stuff, you learn stuff. Memory, why is this important? Because we're currently doing things in our life because it's all based on a story. Either a story of something happened to me, I'm trying to avoid it, or I won't do that. There's certain things you guys know you need to do, but you won't, or you won't show up in a way because of an old story. But the cool part, it's happened the last 10 years, is that we learned the brain is what? Neuroplastic. What does that mean? It can change. It can change. And so listen to this. You guys know this story? Oh, it's a beautiful story. 1954, October 6th, prior to this day, men had hired dogs and wolves to chase them to try to break the 4-minute mile. Nobody could do it. They asked doctors, do you think the human body can break a 4-minute mile? They said, not possible and dangerous for those who try. And then October 6, 1954, one guy did it. But that's not the coolest part of the story. Is that 3 months later, another guy did it. Within 3 years, 16 people did it, and high school kids do it today. I want you guys to think about this. What changed? Did the physiology change? Did their legs change? Did the biomechanics of their legs change? And that quick? You're telling me a month later, all of a sudden and then 3 years later, all of a sudden we got people that can do it now? You see, you're living right now with your level of expectation. And until you get in rooms like this and other rooms, I'm going to tell you, there's shortcuts. We're going to talk about this. There's a shortcut. So how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? Let's get to it. The science of success. What is the science of success? I mean, this thing has... So when you break anything down to its lowest particle, what is it? What's this chair made of? The lowest thing. It's made of what? An atom. It's funny. I was on the way back from a talk, I think a couple months ago, and my wife and I we were going back home, and there was a guy, funny, this was a funny shirt, because I've been talking about this at the event, and this guy was wearing a shirt, he said, "Don't trust an atom. They make up everything." That is so funny. That's such a scientist joke. So if you guys remember, my horror stories of, these chemistry days, but an atom in the middle is what? Protons and neutrons. And what goes, that's the nucleus. What goes around it is these electrons. And how fast electrons and how many electrons are going around depends on what it becomes. The structures of your skin. Is it this, the stage? Is it the chair? Is it wood? Is it, a piece of hair? Everything has different, right? This is where it gets crazy. Is that, did you know your thoughts actually influence electrons? So we then have the proof to show that what you're thinking about is actually influencing these electrons. And then you talk about mirror neurons. This has been more studies in this in the last 10 years than any other time because of technology. Is that mirror neurons, the shortest is you don't have to experience something in your brain to have you actually feel that or sense that. Right? You could experience it, or you could visualize it, and what you're experiencing on the outside is a reflection of the inside. Here's the thing. So when I think about in 2008, I was in practice, and I was like, it was a grind. There was a certain level of grind, and we were a certain level of volume, and we were doing pretty well. But it was a grind, and I just felt like I was kind of pushing. And 2008 was a Tuesday. My dad had recently had a heart attack, and he was going in for a triple bypass surgery that morning. That morning, I drove 2 hours to see my dad kind of into the surgery, and then I had to leave at noon. I stayed there. He was supposed to come out. He was kind of taking a while to get out of the anesthesia. And so I go back. So I had to drive 2 hours back to practice. Saw patients 3 to 6 that night. Then I had a group doctor's report. I had a group report of findings. And there were 11 people in that report of findings. And it was one of those nights where the emotion was high, and all I remember, I just scrapped everything, like any way I said it before. And I look back, I don't even know what I said. I know I told my story, I told my dad's story, and basically I said, I just wheeled my dad in to such and such. I'm telling you right now, you gotta take care of your health. This is the way to do it. Here's the plan. Cash your check. And it was a night we collected $30,000 in one night, but that wasn't the biggest part. The biggest part was I realized, wow, people respond differently when I tell my story. People respond differently when I'm authentic. People respond differently when instead of trying to be like this guy or that guy or my mentor, I could just be me. But it required me to get in a certain state. And all of you have been in that state before. And that's when you look at the mirror neurons. Literally, you can show up even on a video. When you plug in a video, you guys all know it. If you've done any sort of content ever, you realize there's times you will flip on that switch on the video. You're not even sure what you're going to say, but you're such in a moment that that's the one that goes off that thousands of views. And other times you're so articulated and you know exactly what you're saying. You're like scripted out, and you're like, man, that one didn't go as well as I thought it should have gone. It's a feeling, right? People feel you. This is science. People know what you feel. Is it real? That's why we go through the UGP. Right? Your unique gift and passion. Why? Because it's got to be you. If it's not you, you're in trouble because they will feel that. So the mirror principle says this. Whatever's happening in your inner world is reflected on the outside. And so the question you have to ask yourself, when you're trying to go to the next level, is what's on the inside? What's on the inside? Again, I told you, two years ago, I said this is foo-foo, weird stuff. I just want science. And it turns out, the science is crystal clear. No good. Have you guys ever, I threw a Jeep in there, Matt threw a Jeep in there. But think about a car that you've had your eye on. What all of a sudden happens when you have your eye on this car? What'd you see? You see them everywhere. When my wife was pregnant with our oldest, I literally saw pregnant women everywhere. Were there more of them? Were there more on that particular time? No. So think about this, guys. What if your dreams, your vision, where you're going was so crystal clear that all you saw was the resources, the people, the relationships, the doors that you needed to open, that you needed to go down? What if? You see? And I'm telling you, that's the difference. You've all had that experience. Well, why then isn't it working? Because you get hit in the face. Life happens. People say no. You get rejected. You start to doubt. And you get the vision gets cloudy. And that vision gets cloudy. And now the electrons that I just talked about, you start pushing doubtful electrons. You know, they did studies that they call FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt has the lowest level of vibration. So people feel that. But when you walk into a room, it's why the study out of Harvard said the number one aspect of success was positive relational energy for success. Because people feel that. And it's not, hey, bravado or ego. It's how do I really feel about what I have to offer and what they're about to experience. But see, so many of us end up getting hit in the face, and this ends up happening. Is we end up doubting it. And the doubt, now we see this pops up, this doubt, and maybe, one person commented bad out of 10. Maybe I'm not that good. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe that, right? A little bit. We've all been there. So I just challenge us, right? The key is, how can we be wired for success? Wire for success. And this is what it is. Listen, blueprint to a house or to this like the building we're in right now, this beautiful Harvard Hotel. At one point, it was just an idea. That idea turned into some thoughts. That thoughts turned into a blueprint. That blueprint then was taken and put with action and raw materials, and they built this thing. I told you, I think that, again, I thought this is weird foo-foo stuff. The idea that thoughts are my results. My results are coming from my thoughts. Come on, get out of here. I don't want some of that. I don't want that secret stuff. Get that stuff out of here. But it turns out when you start to look at this, right, your current thoughts sparked with an emotion, right? We talked about the 3 parts of the brain. Sparked with emotion, lead to a belief. That belief leads to an action. What if you said, hey, you know what? I just don't know if they have the money. Let's just say you're in an interaction, a report, something. Sales call, day with your sales team, right? Like, what if your sales team, like, well, they showed up, they just didn't look like the part, they kind of were missing a couple teeth, like they didn't, and your thoughts led you to believe that they don't have the money. Versus you focused on the idea that what I have to offer is so stinking valuable, they'll find the money. And not only will they find the money just because I'm trying to hoard the money, because if they don't get this thing, where they'll end up is going to be way more expensive. See, it's a thought. It's a thought. This is why people are successful when others are not. They're like, no, they said they didn't have the money. Why could somebody else go in there and get a result like that? No, they found the money. They put it on a credit card. They had an alcohol. They called their aunt. Their aunt's going to spend, loan them $5,000. Right? It's a thought. Our thoughts are delivering your results. Now, do you need an action? Newton's law says with every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So the amount of action you put forth is going to be the results you get. But the reason why some of us won't act, or even if we do act, we're not acting with a sense of conviction. Those mirror neurons are being, you see, it's science. That's why it's the science of success. When you're looking to go to the next level, it's not an outside game, right? It's an inside game. So there's research, just wait a second on that, Noah. There was research that showed that our brains, these scientists I was just studying a couple weeks ago, they showed that your brain is essentially a simulation machine. So it will simulate the experiences. And some people, the psychologists call it stimulus response. So you have a stimulus, and then you're going to respond a certain way. But there's the space between. One of my favorite songs by Dave Matthews, The Space Was Your Favorite. The space between, the space between. That stimulus and response, see, that's when the magic happens. Because some of you will have a stimulus, and you'll say, that's why I can't. Others will have and then your response will be, I'm not going to do it. But others will have a stimulus, and you'll say, no, this is what I was made for. I solved those problems on Monday before breakfast. I'm a black belt in solving those problems, and you will literally show up that way. So it's a stimulus response. So the brain is a simulation machine. So some of you guys know I've got just wait 1 second. So I've got a simulator at home, a golf simulator in my basement. And I know, my brain, I know that ball only goes 12 foot. From where I hit it, the screen is 12 foot. Every time. It stops at 12 feet. Yet, I have so much fun on this thing because there's software inside of it that simulates where that ball actually goes. And it allows me to be able, go ahead and hit that note. It allows me to be able to play courses, all based on the software. It's only going 12 foot. There's the software that's rating it. There's the hardware. It's only going 12 foot. You'll like this. Chris Hill, I'm telling you, you gotta get it, man. We'll be playing virtually. So it turns out, again, your brain is a simulation machine. I think there's one last one here you'll see here. See, I turned it all off. I know it's only going 12 foot. It's not so much fun without the software. But why do I show this? Because if somebody came in and jacked with my software and, a 300-yard drive, a 250-yard drive, ends up being 75 yards, the game's going to get a little bit different for me, right? So some of you you have software inside that is not allowing you to go to that next level, or you're just not activating it in the right way. And this is where we know you can activate it. You can change it. That's the cool part. There was some research that showed, and they call this the Pygmalion effect, that the Pygmalion effect is a psychological phenomenon in which high expectations lead to improved performance in a given area and low expectations lead to worse. What they did is they put kids in a classroom, they said these are amazing high-level kids, but what they really were average to low. And they told the teachers, these are the greatest kids, treat them as such, challenge them as much as you can. And all of a sudden, what do you think happened to these kids? Guys, this alone, like you could just do this alone and go back home and think, okay, do I have the right environment? Right? We know we are the result of the 5 people we hang around with most, but to so many people, they're not even intentional about those 5 people. Maybe there's somebody you need to get out of your life, and I'm not saying just go home and have a tough conversation, but I'm saying maybe some distance, because you know the reason why you're being held back is because the software that you're playing is constantly being this negative. It's not even you. You're just surrounding yourself. So your environment is the shortest cut to better success is who's around you. That's improvement. So I recently had a situation, and let me check my time. So I told you, Kyle, that you see the God Save link in there. So I was a big God there in high school, high school, feels like high school. Back in Cairo College. So there's 2 people on this picture, in these 2 pictures. So these are my Cairo days. And one of them was John, one of them was Ben. I won't point out which was which. But so both of them had a background where their dad was an alcoholic. In fact, my buddy Ben, I didn't realize that this was real, but we were in Minneapolis going to school. He was from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And his dad could not even drive 4 hours in one drive because he would have drinking so much vodka that he would have to pull over. I didn't know that existed. I remember Ben trying to tell me that. His dad was a nice guy. I met his dad. He was a really nice guy. But so he struggled. Ben came out of school, and we both got in practice at the very same time. And Ben, first year, we've got a bit different paths in terms of how we operated practice, and I was more kids and wellness and, this model, and he was more of kind of this corrective, I'm going to do this kind of CBP, strong, very, And I remember calling Ben about a year and a half into practice, and I thought Ben would be 500 a week. And I remember I was about 400 visits a week, 350 to 400, about a year and a half in. And I called Ben, and he didn't really want to admit to me, but eventually I got to the bottom of it. He was like, yeah, man, I'm really struggling in practice. And he told me, like, his wife was an attorney. She was working in there. They just had a baby. He's like, I'm having to put, groceries on credit cards. And I bought Ben a plane ticket to come to an event that I was going to in Chicago. And he came to that, and he got around the right people. And immediately, this blew my mind, within 11 months, Ben went from like 80 visits a week to 1,000 visits a week. And so Ben got hit in the face. And Ben's dad, the way he, Ben's dad's an alcoholic, and so he saw this thing, but see what happened is Ben chose to get around the right people. He started to change the software. I have another buddy, John, who was a mentor of mine. This guy was a mentor of mine. Like, I consider this guy, so he was 2 years older than me, big Godstead, he got me into Godstead. He answered so many questions to me. He said, go read these books, these philosophy books, go listen to these people, go to these seminars, don't listen to these instructors, get in a fight with these instructors, debate these guys, don't let them tell you this. Everything. And then for my faith, at the time I was like a practicing Catholic. He finds out, he goes, take these 5 questions to your priest, because I don't think Jesus is really in your heart. I goes, I think that. I'm like, hey, dude, are you sure? Yeah, like, hold on. And so I did take him to my priest. He gave me these 5 questions. But I took him to my mom and my aunt and my grandma, the strongest Catholics I knew. And he was right. Like, they couldn't answer some of these questions. I don't blame them. I just realized that I knew everything about Jesus. I didn't know Jesus. 22 years of my life. And Sean was a pivotal part in helping me get there. And the reason I tell you this story is because it doesn't end well. But Sean got to practice. And I know Sean knew the truth. Like, I don't get faked like that. Like, Sean knew the truth. And I wanted him, like, we had a lot of conversation. Remember when his first baby was born, I went over and watched him, like, adjust his baby. I was new, like, you adjusting babies? Like, I was a brand new in the chiropractic. I didn't know. I got it because I hurt my back. And so Sean ends up, but just like Ben, Sean also had an alcoholic dad. And Sean got into practice, and he got punched in the face just like Ben did. But what Sean chose to do is push everybody aside, get away from everybody. Anything that looked like truth, he eliminated. I contacted Sean in 2015, and I wanted to tell him, like, I started kind of, speaking chiropractic and do some coaching and mentoring. And I wanted to say, I was going to do a talk up in Minnesota. I said, Sean, I need to sit down with you, man. I want us to go to coffee with you because I need to tell you how much you mean to me and how much you have influenced lives through me in my own life. And Sean sent me a text back, and he said, chiropractic to me is no longer my purpose. It's nothing more than fulfills my financial portfolio. And I know, like, that wasn't his truth. But he decided, he got punched in the face, and next thing you know, one thing led to another, and he saw Dad that was an alcoholic, and he decided that's, even going back, like, he never used to drink, and like, he would drink a beer or half a beer, and I guess going back, I didn't know this, but he was like, in his mind, I'm a very addictive personality, so I'm not going to do that. And credit to him there, but when push comes to shove and you push everybody away, I'm just telling you the software that he plays. And 1 month ago, I got a text from a friend of mine that said Sean passed away. And I say this, and still to this day, like, I am going to, he's got 5 kids, and I'm going to go tell every one of his 5 kids how much their dad meant to me. I didn't know Sean, like, the last 15 years, I didn't know him. But I'm telling you, like, there's a software that we play, and based on how we play it is the results that we get. And I'm not here, it's not a doom and gloom story. Like, the point of the story is, man, we have a choice. We have a choice. 2 sons of an alcoholic father. One struggles through life as a drunk. The other becomes a successful, ambitious businessman. When asked, why are you the way that you are? Both responded, my father was an alcoholic. Right? It's decisions. It's decisions. So you may be sitting in here. I remember we had Josh and I have a mentor, the late great Chuck Majors, and he would always say from the stage, he said, depressed may be where you're at, but that's not who you are. Sick and diseased may be where you're at, but that's not who you are. He would just scream that from the stage. I never forget that. And that's the thing I think about. Where you're at right now may not be, like, you may be hit some punches. You're not exactly where you want to be. You're not the level you want to be. But you can get there. You can get there. You start showing up and being in rooms like this. You can get there. And so, I want to take a little bit of time to go through this exercise. I promised Maggie I'd get to the exercise. So we're going to get to the exercise. So, here's what Ben Hardy, we just read a book called Be Your Future Self Now. He said this: the present, this is profound, the present causes the meaning of the past, rather than the past causes the meaning to the present. However, your past is more of a determinant of your future than anything. So, I don't know if I copied that right. Here's the key. The present causes the meaning to the past, rather than the past causes the meaning to the present. What you think of your past right now, presently, is more important than the past. And you can reframe it. Whatever happened, you can reframe it. That's the key. The present is more important than the past. And so that's the one thing that I want to go through with this exercise. Because how it works is this. When I'm sitting, when John Price is sitting over a golf shot, and you're teeing off, and you've got water, you got to hit across. What are you thinking about? But the more you think about that water, guess what happens? Yeah. So one of the things about changing thoughts is that, like, you have soil, right? And in soil, it just depends on what seeds you plant. You can plant nightshade, which can be poisonous, or you can plant beans, right? It doesn't judge. So that's the thing about our thoughts. We get hit and we think, man, can I do this? Am I capable? But if you get around the right people and the right thinking, you start to just, I'm telling you right now, this could change in 30 days. You start to change this stuff. So let's go to this. And I want to get to this, and we will. So open your application to exercise, rituals and habits. So what you want to do, one of the things that is very clear in all the literature when it comes to success is that those with a vivid vision end up being able to internalize that in their nervous system. So I want you guys to write down 7 areas. I'm going to walk you through this, okay? So I wrote down 7 because sometimes when I do this, I'm like, I talk about a vivid vision for your life. But here's what I wrote down. Marriage. So on your paper, say write down your vivid vision. Marriage. Family. Professional. Financial. Physical. Spiritual, and social. So there's 7 areas. Marriage, family, professional, financial, physical, spiritual, and social. And what I want you to do, and let's just, kind of in the height of this, I know it's a little bit of like, well, man, there's a lot there. I want you to just, what's up top of your mind right now, because, after watching that Steve Jobs clip, you're like, I can do anything. I can create it. My marriage, I can create anything. I want you to write a word, or maybe just a short phrase, and you're going to go back to this just because of time. You're going to go back to it throughout the weekend. You're going to go back to it tonight. You're going to go back to it tomorrow. You're going to go back to it when you're on the plane on the way home. But in this moment, it's important to capture this thought that you're going to be thinking bigger than you would. So I want you to write a phrase for each one, or a word that will remind you when you come back to really get vivid, because it really could take you an hour, and should, to create your vivid vision. I recently stopped calling something a vision board. It's an activation board. Because when you it's that vision board activates these parts of your brain to be able to realize that's what I want. That's what I'm going to get. And so marriage, family, professional, financial, physical, spiritual, and social. So go ahead and spend just a few minutes doing that, and then we'll go to the other exercises. Cue the music. Take one more minute, and then I'm going to go on these other steps. Check. Just one more minute here, and then we'll go into these other steps. So let me go to step 2 here, and here's the deal. I created these steps, by the way, with Maggie. Maggie and I created these steps, but she made them sound better than I was going to. However, here's what I want you to pay attention to here. Step 2, it says habits and rituals inventory. Okay? Now, listen to me. Listen to me right now. I want you to draw an arrow next to habits, rituals, inventory, or just a dash. And I want you to write the words who, not how. Who, not how. Now, we know that book, written by yours truly, you know me and Ben. So, who, not how. Here's the deal. The reason why I put that is because what's more important, this is what, again, the research has shown, is that what's more important than when you have your vivid vision, what's more important than knowing exactly how you're going to get there, what's more important is you need to picture and visualize and become the who that would already have accomplished all those. And the brain knows no different, so that when you are the who that has already accomplished that vivid vision that you wrote back, you literally start to expect that person. And when we saw that, what happens when you expect something? You activate the greatest supercomputer known to man. And so I want you, again, who, not how. And I want you to write these words in there. So when you think about this, I want you to think it's the 5 senses: sight, feel, smell, hear, taste. Sight, feel, smell, hear, taste. When you think about it, because, by the way, the 20 minutes before you go to bed and the 20 minutes when you wake up is the most important time to start to set these things into the subconscious, into the identity-changing centers of the brain. So when you start to think about your vivid vision, and then here's the thing. So you think, okay, my vivid vision is to have this family, marriage this. For me, one of these guys I think about is my time. What am I doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I'm golfing Wednesday afternoons. I'm date morning with my wife on Friday. Got the kid in the afternoon. Like, content on Tuesday, team leadership meetings. Like, that's what I have. And so here's the other thing. When you think of this, is what I said, the 5 senses. This is what's so cool about the research is the brain shows when you've accomplished that, when you're there and you're such a vivid vision about what you're doing, you can actually go back and say, okay, who would I be when I'm already there? So let's just hypothetically say, because it's easier, it's not about money all the time, but if you had, say, $10 million in your bank account, and right now somebody calls you and they want to do something with you on a Tuesday afternoon, but sometimes you'd be like, oh, man, that's a good connection, I probably should go. Who knows what that could turn into? I don't really want to because this and that, but it could. But if you're being that person, it's immediate. No, I can't. No, we're not doing it. So you can be that person right now. That's the kicker, is that you can be that person, and that's where the habits and rituals and decisions, because I think about, Josh talked earlier about think. You gotta think, right? Use the conscious and think. And so the people, the decisions you need to make, that's where when you go back to the drawing board here is what are the not just the habits and rituals, what does it smell like to have that? what will that, private flight that you're going to be in, flying private now, what would that smell like going in there? What would what will you feel like when your daughter comes home and just scoops you up and you have time, you're not thinking about the business, you're like, I can be for the next hour on the floor playing with her, right? What will that feel like? What will it smell like? What will you sound like? That's step 2. Step 3 is the supporting habits. These are what I call the seeds. So where you wrote who, not how, in this one on step 3, write seeds. S-E-E-D-S. Seeds. What are the seeds you're planting in the soil? For me, so when I think about supporting habits, the seeds that I'm planting, these are just mine, you can start to think about it, is my seeds are my thoughts. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are, I'm not looking to give my body these dopamine hits. I don't need to scroll, I'm not dopamine hit. I don't need to hit that snooze on, I am a delayed gratification. That's my thoughts. My thoughts, I know that I win when I do the tough thing first. And so, I can say the rituals, I didn't do the rituals, but I can say, no, this is who I am, and my thoughts are, I delay gratification. I don't look for short-term dopamine hits. I have a strong mind, and my actions are congruent with my desires. Right? So that's the seeds I'm talking about. When you start to go back to those are the seeds you want to be planting. Step 4 is habit consistency. What's my arrow? My arrow is going to say evidence. Evidence. So we all have habits that we want to be consistent. One of the ways you do that is you spark it with an emotion. The way you spark it with an emotion is at the end of every day. This is something that I've just started to do, and it's very cool, is that you start to give the brain evidence that what you're about to do with your vivid vision, you start to give it daily evidence. So at the end of the day, you give yourself 3 pieces of evidence that happen throughout your day that supports you're on the road to your vivid vision. So evidence. Evidence will help you drive this emotion that's going to lead to more, better rituals and habits. So I wrote down, I had an amazing conversation with my daughter about God. Closed 4 non-clients into a new program. I got invited to do a big podcast through my DMs. And I had an amazing conversation with my wife walking the dog. Those are just things that have happened this week. That's evidence that where I'm going is going to, and that charges me. So then I actually see thoughts, emotion, belief, action, results. It helps me get that action. That's getting my results, but it's got to be start with the thought. And then the 5th one here, and this is another good one, is affirming statements. Think about this. Your current affirmation will eventually be a limiting belief. Let me say that again. Most of our affirmations, if we're actually accomplishing them, could eventually be a limiting belief. So I was reading this one guy who's like, this is why I always do affirmations in the 3rd person. Dan is versus I am. Because if it changes, I'm okay with it changing. And so that's the affirming, the affirmation. When you write affirmations, write them in the 3rd person. I know you're going to kick me off here, so we got to. So that's the 5th one. You're going to do that throughout the week. I want to go through 2 more slides, or I got a couple more. We'll fast forward through it, and I promise it'll be 60 seconds. My thing with all this science stuff, by the way, guys, I got to ask my worldview. What does God say about this? Does God think that belief is important? He didn't say go dip the toes in the Sea of Galilee to get saved. He didn't say eat this bread on Sunday. What did he say? Romans 10:9, believe in your heart, confess with your tongue. Eternal life. If it gets me eternal life, are you kidding me? You think it gives me some things on this plane? Belief. He didn't say do anything. And I'm not saying doing things is important. Gotta start, right? Belief, if you can, right? Everything is possible. Go ahead, Noah. Albert Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge or intelligence. Imagining yourself in the future. Imagining. So much research. I mean, literally research after research after research showing when you expect something to happen, those that shot free throws, 23% better, 24% better when they shot free throws. Another guy didn't do anything, 0% better. Another group, they visualized. They didn't even touch a basketball. Visualized. Remember that group got 24% better? This group got 23% better. Just thinking about it. One study showed that a group of guys They pictured lifting up a table with their forearm. At the end, 3 times a week for 8 weeks, at the end of 8 weeks, they are 16% stronger and bigger in their forearm. They can touch a table. You don't think that the greatest supercomputer that God put inside? That's the cool part. The number one reason for failure is internal self-sabotage. Internal self-sabotage. I'll thank Josh for this one. He said this on his very first, and went me down to Carl Jung, but Josh said this on his first podcast. The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, it'll tell you. Teach your kids that. You kidding me? Don't let them, the world dictate who they are. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will drag your life, and you'll say, that's just the way it is. So, the last thing, go to the next one. It's all a story. It's all a story. Your identity, it's a story. It's a story you're telling yourself. I'm the story guy. Well, it turns out the best story is the one that's right here. The one we're telling ourselves. That's what's leading to all the results, or a lack thereof. And here's the thing. If an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But it's broken by an inside force, life begins. The greatest thing, right? And the very last one. A lion. I like to preach up here, guys, but here's the deal. The truth is like a lion, you don't need to defend it, you gotta let it loose, and it'll defend itself. You know that. But here's the last thing I'll say. Genesis 1:1 says that God created the heavens and the earth. That means the first thing before it was just, before it was loving, before it was kind, before it was graceful, before it was forgiving. He was a creator. He was a creator. Genesis 1:26 says what? We are created in His image. That means that we have dominion over all the stuff. The things, the people, the creatures, the birds, the fish. Because we're like Him, and therefore He's a creator. First, deep down in our DNA is the ability to create. And then 1 John 4:4, as I started with, the greatest things always start from the inside out. So this weekend, guys, it's about inside out. There's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of game plan, there's a lot of marketing. But I'm going to tell you, look no further. Inside out, it's where it all ends, where it all starts. Good to be here. God bless you.
Oh man, I don't know how to follow up Dan's energy. It's listen, it is great, and it's such a great way to